In just the last few hours, a conflict that's been simmering for a while has really started to boil over. We're talking about new, mysterious weapons, battlefronts that are suddenly expanding across borders, and a war of words that's getting just as dangerous as the one on the ground. So, let's break down exactly what is happening.
And, it all seems to start with this mystery in the sky. There's a totally new kind of drone that's been spotted over Iran, something nobody has ever reported seeing in this conflict before. The big question is, what exactly is it?
So people on the ground are reporting they've seen an eagle-shaped surveillance drone. An eagle. Now, whether this is an American asset or an Israeli one, well, that's still totally unclear. But the fact that it's even there, that alone signals a huge escalation in how intelligence is being gathered and the kind of technology being used.
Yeah, the appearance of this drone, it really signals a major shift. We're moving into a whole new phase of this conflict, one where those lines between what's nature and what's technology are starting to get really blurry. It's a new kind of warfare, defined by stealth and by deception.
This is basically something straight out of science fiction, but it's happening in the real world. It's called biomimicry warfare. The whole idea is to build drones that perfectly mimic animals. I mean, just imagine trying to track an enemy aircraft when it looks exactly like an eagle just soaring over your head. It is an absolute tactical game changer, and it's no longer a theory. It's on a live battlefield.
But look, this story is so much bigger than just one drone. The conflict isn't contained anymore. No, it's spilling over, creating multiple active fronts and pulling in a whole bunch of new players.
And this thing is spreading fast. Over in Israel, Iranian cluster munitions, and these are weapons that scatter smaller bombs over a really wide area, are causing some devastating explosions. At the same time, Hezbollah is launching barrages of missiles from Lebanon. And then, to the east, Iraq has now officially authorized its militias to retaliate. One group is already claiming they've hit U.S. bases over 20 times in a single day. The battlefield is literally widening by the hour.
Now, right at the heart of the economic side of this whole thing is this one crucial waterway, the Strait of Hormuz. This is one of the most important choke points for global oil and trade on the entire planet, and it has become a key piece on the chessboard in this fight.
So, what does that actually mean? What's the real-world impact? Well, right now, about 300 massive vessels are just stuck, waiting to pass through. People on the coast are saying their lights at night look like a floating city. It's a traffic jam with absolutely huge implications for the global economy.
So what's Iran's official take on this? Well, their foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, is being very, very clear. He says, look, the strait isn't closed, but it is closed to our enemies and their allies. His logic is pretty simple. We are in a state of war. From their perspective, why on earth would you let your enemy's ships pass? It's basically a selective blockade.
Okay, so the fight isn't just happening with drones and missiles. It's also a battle of information, a total war of words, where each side is desperately trying to control the narrative of who's winning and who's losing.
And the claims are just completely opposite. On one side, the U.S. is asserting that Iran's military capabilities have been crippled. On the other side, Iran claims to have destroyed U.S. bases in the region, saying the bases are so uninhabitable that American soldiers now have to work from hotels and that their commanders have fled into shelters. I mean, you've got two completely different realities being presented to the world.
And just to add another layer to all this, you've got the internal politics going on in the U.S. Former President Trump is claiming that the media, what he calls fake news, is portraying an American loss when he insists the reality is the exact opposite and that Iran is actually desperate to cut a deal.
In this war of words, it's not just between the main players. The superheated rhetoric is now spilling over and igniting other long-standing rivalries. Case in point, India and Pakistan. In a move that really shocked the diplomatic world, India's foreign minister, S. Jaishankar, reportedly used the word dalali, which is a deeply offensive term that means pimping or brokering, to describe Pakistan's entire foreign policy.
And the backlash, well, it was swift and sharp. As Pakistani professor Rabia Akhtar put it, you don't just accidentally arrive at such language. She argues it actually reveals a specific mindset, suggesting that, quote, you can only describe the world using the vocabulary you are most fluent in.
And the criticism wasn't just coming from Pakistan. That comment created a huge firestorm back home in India. Political opponents immediately pounced on what they saw as total hypocrisy. An opposition leader fired back with a pretty sharp question. Was India's own prime minister doing dalali when he offered to mediate the Russia-Ukraine war?
So as the physical battles and the rhetorical battles are just raging, nations all across the region are pretty much being forced to take a side, to draw some very clear diplomatic lines in the sand.
And what we're seeing is a really significant alignment. 6 key Arab nations. We're talking Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, the UAE, Bahrain, and Jordan. They have all come together to issue a joint and very unequivocal condemnation of Iran's recent actions.
And they did not mince words. Their statement formally frames Iran's attacks as a violation of international law, pretty much across the board. Everything from sovereignty and territorial integrity all the way up to the foundational charter of the United Nations. That is a very, very serious diplomatic move.
But, beyond all the strategy and the drones and the high-level diplomatic disputes, there is a real, profound human cost to all of this. Amidst these larger power struggles, the impact on civilians on the ground, it's just devastating.
And the numbers are just grim. In Gaza, even after a ceasefire was supposedly enacted back in October, ongoing Israeli attacks have led to the deaths of 680 Palestinians.
But to really understand the true cost, we have to look past the numbers, at individual stories. And one story that's gotten global attention is that of Karim Abu Nasser. He is just 18 months old.
And the details coming out are just horrifying. According to reports, he was allegedly tortured by Israeli forces. Medical exams revealed injuries that included cigarette burns, puncture wounds, and evidence that a sharp metal object had been inserted into his leg. This is the brutal reality of the conflict for the most vulnerable people.
And this all brings us back to where we started, but with a much, much bigger question. As warfare evolves with things like stealth drones and online propaganda, and as diplomatic insults fly around like missiles, we have to ask ourselves, who is it that truly pays the price for this new kind of war?